Hi. Well, most of you know who I am. And if you don't, I'm DD, or Durk Dehner, Tama Finland Foundation's co-founder. And we are in the presence today of someone who never got their exit interview. And time has gone on, and he knew that I was going to croak pretty soon. And so he wanted to make sure that he got the interview before I departed.
When I'm in town in person, to do it in person and not on fucking Zoom.
Basil Twist.
Hi, Durk.
Hi.
Hi. It's great to be here. It's great to be back in Tom's house.
Thank you for doing what it took to make this happen today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. My pleasure.
So you were just recalling before we started about our first encounter.
Yeah. So I did a residency. It's almost 2 years ago that I was here, but I had come much longer before I came. I think in 2007, and I had seen somewhere in my journeys. I'm a puppeteer, and I was being trained in France, and I saw a Tom exhibit in France, and in the exhibit there was a drawing that looked like a puppet to me, and I was so intrigued, and that was years and years before, and I thought, I was in LA, and I thought, I'm going to go to the Tom of Finland Foundation and ask about that. And I just walked up and knocked on the door, and I think Michael answered.
Was it Michael?
Yeah. And
wow.
And then I met you.
Yeah.
And explained that I was a puppeteer, and I loved Tom's work, and I thought I had seen this drawing, and we went and looked in the I guess the digital archives, or where somehow we looked and we scanned and we found the drawing, of which I had seen it. It was not a fantasy. I had seen it, and it was a sketch that I think he had made for some sort of animated figure that was kind of like a pop. Pull the cock, pull the string, and the legs move.
Yeah.
And then you showed me these wonderful dolls that Etienne had made.
Yeah.
And
with his mom.
And
he painted them. She sewed them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on that trip, I met Rick Castro, and he had just opened his Antebellum gallery, and it was the beginning of me saying, I want to make some of my work towards this spirit of eroticism. I feel something that I can do that's calling to me. In my work as a puppeteer, I'm sort of like, what's missing? And sometimes it was abstraction, and sometimes it was more technique. And here I was like, I think what's missing is a real erotic show. That's felt like that was an expression I wanted to do. And that time here in 2007 was sort of the beginning of that. Fast forward through all the years and all the different projects I did, and I wasn't making that project. I mean, I feed eroticism and sensuality, and I kind of sneak them into my shows. I don't do kids shows. I do kind of sophisticated puppetry for adults, but it wasn't an outright erotic show. And I thought, I need to do this, like you were just telling me. Like, that's something incomplete for me. And I think it was just like, I didn't feel, in a word, it's like I almost didn't feel safe in my other environments to put that work out there. And I thought, I need to put myself in a place like Tom's house, safe, and that is like I'm swimming in that environment, that I would be a total jerk if I didn't actually produce something. And by that time, the residency program had started, because when I think I first came, you didn't have that kind of formalized program, and we started talking or corresponding about it. And I came, I think, to a Christmas party here or something. And
were you living here?
no, I just, I'm from San Francisco, so I'm in
Oh, that's right.
California with some frequency, and so for some reason, I was here, and we started planning that I was going to come, and then the pandemic hit, and so all bets were off on everything, and as things started to open up, I found I could come back, and I came in, I guess that was 22.
Did you come before and then come back?
I'd come a few times to visit. That was the time I
But
came.
you hadn't started your residency.
I hadn't started my residency. We had talked about doing it, and then it got delayed by the pandemic. And it was like, when are we going? Everyone was like, when can we do anything?
And when are you going to do something that is explicitly sexual, sensual in its nature?
Yeah. And so I got here, I got into this space. I love being in this space. I love the people in it. I love the art. I love the history of it. And we set myself up. I had, out in the garden under a tent that was my space. And then it was like, okay, how do I do that here? Because I know a lot of the artists who come here are primarily visual artists, and people find a way to make their art, but to put on like a puppet theater piece was like, well, how am I going to do that here? And I was looking at, is there another space? We were
going to do it in Chinatown.
In Chinatown, which is still could find its full, come to full flower there. But
I'm so glad we did it here.
No, what I did is built the tent into a little theater, and the key thing was those tents had, they have that kind of vinyl covering, and at one end you could zip it shut, and I thought that's the curtain that opens with a zipper, and we open the zipper and reveal a world.
Yeah.
And I also, while I was here, I'm friends with people at the Magic Castle, which is a great LA institution. And I, as a puppeteer, I'm sort of magic adjacent. So I hang out at the castle, and I saw a very traditional magician doing a beautiful trick, which is called a silk fountain, where and I use silk a lot in my work. He did this thing where this piece of silk opens, and then there's another piece, and 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 it was like so gorgeous and very erotic. And I thought, I want to learn that magic trick. I want to use that as a sort of a flowering opening that I can build this theater with the zipper around, and then just start. Then I started going. Mark Crawford and I went shopping for fabric. I found some fabric. I just started making. You just have to, once you have the space, and there was an invitation to do something. There was a party here, like a hot dog party, with a bunch of Leathermen, and Mark Bellinger at the time said, you should do something. So I made a small version of it
in the Gold Pavilion.
Yeah, it was in the daytime. I don't think people necessarily got it, but it started me to make a performance that eventually, it's only about 10 minutes long, but it's a thing that, because then I performed it myself, I made it myself, I presented it to an audience at night in the garden, and
can you actually tell where it came from within you?
I guess I know when I speak of eroticism too, I'm a kinkster. I have a different. It's not. I'm a gay man. It's not an and everyday eroticism. It's extremely personal, and I but I wanted it to also have a sense of universality. So it's not a story of this puppet is fucking this puppet, or it's more about what is penetration, what is something consuming something, what is something merging into something, what are these materials that we fetishize, a skin, a zipper, a leather, a rope. What are things that give meaning to our sense of eroticism as objects, and how do those objects have a life in them?
Because when I watched it or
Yeah.
experienced it, I felt, well, it's quite dark
Mm-hmm.
and but very warm,
Mm.
and that it really felt like you had reached into the area of your sexuality that was like where we go, but a lot of people don't go.
Yeah, and I knew that's why I would have never been able to do that if I wasn't in a space that felt safe
Right.
for that. You know, I could make something that's people in puppetry sometimes will make something that's sexual and it's like a joke. It's kind of because we have an association with puppetry of it being innocent
Right.
and for children, and so if you make it sexy, it's the irony of that.
So
But it wasn't that. It's not
you
ironic.
could
It's,
choose to do this project, carry it forth,
yeah.
and who your audience is going to be are homosexuals.
Yes, I think that's the right audience for it.
You know,
And an audience that's you know, like an erotic arts festival. And we did presents. I presented the
Right.
piece in New York this past summer, and that was so satisfying for me.
so please, I just want you to talk about that for one moment, because I have not really spoken to you since then.
Yeah.
And this is great news. So we actually had with Diesel, we did Tama Finland Clubhouse,
Mm.
and so it was 4 days of activation of films and lectures, and Basil doing his performance of this piece down in the basement.
Yeah. It has to be
Down.
It has to be down. You
Yeah.
have to go down to get there.
Yeah.
You have to, and then you have to come up after, and you also need to find the space. You know, it's about finding a space because the clubhouse was pretty loud and wild, and there's a lot going on, and you need a space that's focused and intimate.
Yeah.
For this, because it's intimate. So it should be, you know, it should not, you know, I think we had it for probably could fit at max 20 people in there. And there was a space, fortunately, because I live near there, so I went and talked to the people, where could I do this, and there was a space down under the stairs, and they had like a little kind of a green screen room where they do some video work, and so I could close it off and make it private and tuck myself under the stairs and set up chairs and make, you know, the whole theater itself is an art experience too. Just let's gather downstairs in this little cramped space, and then what happens when the zipper opens?
I just remember that the girl beside me, she just jumped out of her chair. She got so scared at one point.
There was some surprises in
Yes.
it. And you're sitting up close like
Yeah.
that. It's very,
Yeah.
it's a real experience.
It's sort of like being in front of a butthole.
Yeah, very much. Yes.
So, so this project could have more life.
Yeah, I mean, I left here, and I've been in London for a while working on another project, and I have a wonderful, fulfilling career that has me do all kinds of stuff, and it's brought me back to LA with another project, and I'm finding the time. I have a great residency for a year with a new studio.
Where is this going to be?
It's going to be in New Hampshire, which is, you know, I'll be there in the winter in New Hampshire in my studio with my, you know, wonderful and sexy partner who.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, who.
So he'll go with you.
And I want him actually. He's a great maker too. So we've been talking for a while about doing this and pushing it farther, and that he participated in it. So I do plan to push it farther this year,
and open up.
Yeah.
You know, and see where it takes you.
Yeah, and being able to recreate it, to doing the performance here and then doing it in New York, because at first it was so site specific what I made in this space, and then I had to create that canvas with the zipper. I had to recreate that. Now I have it, and to be able to, you know, I was talking with Richie about like maybe we do it someplace else. I'd love to expand the piece and have it be that I can bring it to the audiences who would love it. So I do so many projects now where I'm not actually performing, or it's not. I'm sort of I'm directing and designing.
Producer.
I'm a creative producer, and I'm also realizing other people need miracles to happen, and I help pull them off. But the origins of me as an artist is me as a performer in my little puppet stage, and it's great to go back there, and the residency here allowed me to do that.
That's really. I mean, it's from a different. It's the same thing that happens for everyone, but it's. Because your medium was quite different, and it'll be interesting to see how our filmmaker here, who's now arrived, how he will actually utilize the presence here to actually interpret what he wants to express.
Yeah, I mean, for me, ultimately, besides that I was inspired by the little space and stuff. But it's the context. To be in a space like this, when you come behind the gate and you're in this, in the Tom's House space, it's a different space.
Yeah.
You have a different space that you can be and express yourself, and that you're not only invited to, you're encouraged, and you must. If you have it inside of you, you need to express it, and that's I'm so glad to be here.
You know, we've been on a run here. We've had 3 artists presentations, one after another, and they've all been leaving. And could we be better at what we're doing here? Could we? Is there anything that comes to your mind that we could actually serve the artists in a more I don't know. I'm just I asked that just because we didn't have any training in this. We did this from a grassroots place, and we just wanted to actually provide and for artists to take advantage of what we had to offer. Yeah. And for some reason last night I was talking to one of the guests about doing puppet shows in Hawaii, made out of toilet paper rolls and paper mache, and making a little dress for them, and it was, I don't know why it came up last night, but it did, yeah. So
I can't. I mean, it's the way to support artists is to let artists lead, and to let an artist lead and follow them, and of course resources and space are also not infinite, but as artists come in who have different ways of working besides the way that Tom worked, where he would draw, that those things that sort of will show up in their own way from the artists. I think the artists will lead it and say what they need, and ultimately, I think that everything you need is here because it's the spirit of the
Yes.
place that gives it, and then it's the community that continues, and to stay connected with the community. That's really so that the experience that you have here, the dense experience that you have here, can continue to feed into. I mean, for me at least, for
Yes.
me who works in a field that isn't necessarily, people don't identify me as a neurotic artist. So that I connect with this place, that I come home here, I feel like I'm home. But I want to, I see Richie and I see Champ and I see people out, and I see you out in the world, and to connect and to keep connecting and to invite those connections to continue. That's the most important thing.
I just want to say that you surprised me with that presentation, because what you didn't do is you didn't, I'm interpreting, right? But you actually, you expressed environments and levels and forces, and not individuals. And when we think of puppetry, we always think about individuals,
Characters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So you got me on that one.
Cool.
And so I really hope that you will actually continue on that voyage, and that maybe we can promote another expanded presentation.
Yeah.
That's 30 minutes long.
Yeah. An hour.
Okay.
An hour long.
All right.
The goal is to have a show that feels it's long enough, and your encouragement and any possibility of an affiliation, which already exists,
Yes.
with this
that.
is that's super valuable to making it happen. Absolutely.
Okay, Basil Twist, thanks for coming by, and we'll be seeing more. Did we ever give a name to it?
I call it Eros Anima.
Right.
Yeah.
Not anima.
No,
Anima.
Anima.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks, Durk.